welcome to Gallagher Premiership Tonight. It is a joy to be here because it means rugby is back. We've got rugby to talk about. We're going to be discussing everything we've seen from round 14 of the Gallagher Premiership. Ben Kay joins us, of course, Austin Healy as well. And we're looking forward to a phone call from the quarantine Wayne Barnes. He made the mistake of going on holiday to Mallorca, and he's probably regretting that right now. And we'll be hearing from Pat Lamb as well. Guys, rugby returns. Austin, as quickly as you can, sum up what you've seen in that first week of rugby. What does it mean to you to see rugby back?
Well, it's great to be back. A lot of relieved players, I think, having got the fitness element out of the way of coming back. But there's been some great performances. There's been some teams that haven't quite got the rustiness out of them yet, but I'm sure that'll come. But yeah, it's been an interesting first weekend.
Austin, and for you?
Well, one thing that stands out for me is how busy the M5 was going south. I didn't realise how many people were going to Cornwall this time of year. But if I had to pick a team, I would say Bath surprised me the most. Watching that game back, they looked very, very strong across the field.
Yeah, some teams have worked very hard and very well through lockdown to get themselves in prime position. But Bath, as we will discuss, have signed well in Ben Spencer. They may have an absolute gem. Let's have a look at some of your tweets. If you want to get in contact with us, let us know your thoughts. It's #GP Tonight. From Kevin Westlake, I've never shed a tear watching BT Sport before, but that was powerful. It was difficult to watch and thought-provoking. Kevin talking about the opening piece which Ugo Maritoji and Ellis Genge did on BT Sport on Friday night ahead of the Harlequins and the Sale game. Guys, you would have to have a heart of stone not to be moved by what they said. But it was really important because I guess it gave an impact and insight into the players, the black players that we know that have played with and who are currently playing. We sometimes forget that they have been affected. We think they live in this bubble of rugby and life is great for them. It's not, and it came across so powerfully.
It was a very powerful piece. I think, you know, that what good that those guys doing that will hopefully come out of the whole rugby community embracing the current sort of movement towards making sure that racism isn't a part of our game is what they said is growing up. There were times where they felt that it wasn't quite as welcoming, not necessarily all the time overtly, but just having those players that represented them, and Ugo often talks about that, having people that look like him playing the game is very important, and you don't want any barriers to anyone playing the game. Someone else made the point that, you know, rugby's numbers have been dwindling, and I think it was Ugo actually, and the whole benefit will be, let's not make it a class thing, not make it a race thing, but make sure that rugby is the destination that kids want to go and take up the sport, and then hopefully when they fall in love with it, they stay involved for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, really, really important. And to Ugo, thank you so much for being so honest. It must have been very, very painful for you indeed, but it has done so much good. A few more tweets from Aaron Jones. There's no messing around anymore with the new breakdown laws. We'll be discussing that with Wayne Barnes. And this is from Rachel Hartland. A joy to have live rugby back. Thank you, BT Sport Rugby. It's our pleasure. One or two of the presenters are looking very lean after lockdown. Ugo Monnier and friends looking for a call-up. Okay, weight lost. I've managed 2 stone. I think that's going to go back pretty quickly. Ben?
I don't think I've lost weight. I think the liver, it might have just been reapportioned. I think the liver has taken a bit of a pounding, but yeah, I've kept reasonably fit.
I was even on your bike all the time, and you just...
No, actually, my main thing I've supported during the lockdown has been the Côte d'Azur in terms of their rosé, and the amount that we drank at home has just been unseen.
Outstanding. Well done for you. Okay, let's look at this new rugby landscape that we're going to experience over the next few months. Some people will be wondering, what is rugby going to look like? Where are the games going to be played? What is the international calendar? So let's just show you what the calendar is now from this point through to the end of the season. And if you're an international player, there's not going to be a lot of rest. We've got Premiership games, of course, between now and the end of October, with the final on the 24th of October. European competition, provided, of course, travel arrangements allow. That is through September, October, with the finals on the 16th and 17th. Then we have the final round of the Six Nations in October. Then the international tournament through November and December. And then in November, Premiership returns and just rattles on through until the 26th of June. No Premiership Rugby Cup, of course. Europe starts in December, Six Nations February, March, and then if everyone is still standing, the Lions come July and August. Austin, that is a brutal, brutal schedule.
Yeah, it's not what you'd expect as a player. It's going to be difficult to feel fresh most points in that. The concerning thing, I think, for most of the clubs will be is how much international rugby is folded into that, and whether or not that can actually go ahead, how these bio bubbles are going to work. Are elite teams going to be exempt from quarantine and travel, etc.? They're decisions for other people to make. But from a player's point of view, I remember playing for Leicester at the end of the season back in '97, and we played 21 games in 7 days. It was other way around. Seven games in 21 days.
Wow.
We played 3 games a day every day. No, we played 7 games in 21 days. And yeah, we were shattered at the end of it, but we did it, and it felt like a sense of achievement. And coming back, having been 5 months off, players are going to actually just love playing again, running out there, whether there's crowds or not, and just grabbing a ball and getting stuck in. And let's see how long that lasts. Hopefully there's enough room in the squads. What we will see is a lot of young talent. We'll see boatloads of young talent getting their opportunities. We've already seen it, and long may that continue.
We used to dream about 21 games in 7 days. I used to dream about it.
I went to bed before I got up.
Who really caught your eye? Which team performance caught your eye this return to action?
I think Wasps just then, actually, because the worry for them was that the break came at exactly the wrong time, just as they'd found some momentum, having had a really poor start to the season. Northampton the other way round, and you would have thought that Northampton were crying out for a rest. They didn't play too badly today, but Wasps, despite that, 5-month little gap in the season, they've come straight back into it. They've obviously worked on a few things over the time that they've had off. They look defensively a lot more sound, and I was really impressed with them.
Yeah, Wasps were very impressive today indeed. Austin, for you?
I think Bath, actually. I think we've always known that they've got a really strong pack and a driving game. They coupled that with the skills and experience that Spencer's added. They've got great talent in the back three. We know Joseph's try he was floating. It was incredible. So I think that if they can keep their stars fit, and it's going to be the same story for all the teams really that are going to vie for those top 4 spots, they can keep their big stars fit. I could see them battling with Wasps for 4th. Maybe those two could keep pushing. They could end up 3rd and 4th. The team that was probably the most scared will be Sale, who came back and looked nothing like the side that we saw before. So Steve Diamond's got a lot to work on there. They've had a lot of distractions actually at Sale with new big players coming in, and you never know how long it takes to rebalance the squad.
Yeah. No one mentioned Bristol, which is slightly embarrassing, seeing as we have Pat Lamb on the line for us. Pat Lamb, thank you so much indeed, Director of Rugby at Bristol Bears, for joining us. Still a big smile on your face following that victory over Saracens yesterday?
Yeah, I think most of the coaches who have won would be happy with that. That's what you're after. Just, there's still a lot of work to be done, but to get the win and get the 4 points after such a long break was pleasing, particularly against Saracens.
Sorry, Pat, what has it been like trying to keep Bristol Bears ticking over, your influence and your contact with the players during 5 months?
It's been really good, actually. It's probably helped what we're trying to do. We had a theme this year about ownership around not being spoon-fed on a lot of things, and couldn't have asked for a better way to do it, having lockdown. And a lot of credit goes to the head of medical, Rory Murray, and head of athletic performance, Kev Gehrig. Between the 3 of us, we put out a pretty decent plan, and the way that we executed their plan was pretty good. And we've come back in pretty good nick. We got no injuries yesterday. It was pretty bruising, and the thing that came out of yesterday too is what I've learned being back in the Premiership, and it's only our 2nd season, that when I study Saracens, study Exeter, and there's certain things you cannot do against them. There's certain ways, and I generally apologise to my family or people I know well. I said, you won't enjoy this game, but we just got to do what we got to do to win it. And there's certain things we have to do which we don't necessarily enjoy, but you have to do it.
Pat, you're talking about ownership as a key ingredient for you this year, and you've got a couple of young halfbacks, lots of experience across the rest of the team. But these young guys they're really going to have to influence some names that are much bigger than theirs. Do you see that as a difficulty or as a plus?
I see it as a plus, because these guys are racking up the games quickly. I think Callum's 50 games now, both Harry Randall and Andy Urin. They've the 2nd season of Premiership, and they're all good, English qualified boys that will come through. And I think, every game is an experience, and every game they're going to get better. And they're committed to the club for the next 3 seasons, or all 3 of them, and so they'll just get stronger and stronger. I think our game is not necessarily about the individual. It's about the individual knowing their role, and these guys know it pretty well. Of course, they're going to make mistakes like players, but what I do enjoy is the way that these guys pick themselves up, take the learnings, and move on to the next game.
I was just wondering, Pat, you will obviously have a plan with your coaches of how you're going to manage the huge amount of fixtures you're going to have in 1 week. How are you? Have you told the players whether they're going to be rotated, or are you just taking that week by week, and that we'll make the decision depending on who's fit? Or have you said, well, maybe you'll play these 2 games, but you'll get a rest here?
Yeah, we're going to go game to game, and the players, everyone just expect to play. At the end of the day, when you've been out for a while, everyone wants to play. So I said, let's just go week to week, game to game, focus only on Saracens. Now we move to Gloucester Friday night, and everyone who's fit and available will be hungry to play for that and show it through training. But obviously, that's where you work with your medical and your sports science group, and we measure all the collisions, not just the game collisions and game minutes, but it's certainly training collisions as well. And one thing that you can do, manage. I mean, this is similar to what happened in New Zealand when I was coaching NPC down there. When you get midweek games, sometimes I remember managing Kevin Mealamu, Tony Woodcock, and John O'Fall with their All Black commitments, and turn around that sometimes they just did a captain's run at the beginning of the week, clarity, walk through captain's run, and they were ready for the game. The game became their big training session. So you're managing training stuff, but everyone is, we're going to need everybody. People will get injured, and the main thing is working with the science of it, is making sure that guys aren't burnt out.
Pat, I'm interested to know what the feedback from the players was when they came off the field yesterday. It must be a very alien environment for them to play in an empty stadium. What did they say to you when they got back in the changing rooms?
Yeah, I think it's something that everyone's known is going to happen, and we had a bit of a training head out at Ashton Gate the week before, and I think the big thing that we talked about was the game has always been about making sure you as an individual do your job and focus on yourself rather than the crowd, and that's generally what it should be about. However, what we said is that the best way to get the energy that we get off the crowd, and particularly the home crowd, is of each other. Challenge everyone to be energizers. People are going to have those moments when they're struggling, but just need someone else to energize it, and whether that's from on the field, from the bench, from the support staff, and but no, I think everyone's just more glad that we're on the field when we're back, and it was a great feeling to get rugby back on the road again.
You said that your team isn't about individuals, it's about the individual knowing his role within the team. But we, of course, were getting excited. Fans of Bristol Bears were getting excited about Semi Radradra. How's he settling in?
Yeah, very well, very well. He's, he's mingled extremely well with everyone, made it the effort with everyone. As I talked to different players, and they said, they're pretty shocked. Sometimes they think the Island boys can be very quiet. They're all different, and Semi's made the effort to have conversations right across the group, and coffees and so forth, and around the high performance centre. It wasn't quite the game that we wanted with the weather that he could expose. So he actually had a great opportunity. He ran in the wrong hole. I'm not sure if you guys saw it when he ran. The plan was for him to go into the second just a little bit wider, and he would have broken through. But his timing will come. But I think I enjoyed about it. I looked at the game last night. His work off the ball. Getting back into defence shape, talking to the guys around him, all the stuff that it's not necessarily the flash stuff, but the hard-working stuff was good.
And well, on Ben Earl and Max Malins as well with you on loan. That must be difficult for them. How are they responding to that?
Yeah, they've been really good. I mean, I think we were very clear at the beginning, obviously it was a loan. I go year to year. Every year the team changes, and it's about the here and now. So when I spoke to them individually, they were keen. They realised that they got ambitions to play for England, and to do that they need to be playing week in and week out in the Premiership. Obviously I admire their talent and their ability, and being young English players, it was just a natural fit. So it's not about where they're going to be. It's like our game. It's not about next week or whatever. It's about the here and the now. And these boys have they've come in and mingled. They've known a lot of the boys in the group, younger ones, come through the age group. So it was great to see, and Ben particularly getting out there and putting his body on the line there was great. They felt great after the game doing it. Max has come back off a hamstring. He's not far away. Could feature this week.
Pat, thank you so much, and many congratulations on that win. 6 on the bounce. You must be a very happy man indeed. Thank you so much. We'll let you return to your Sunday evening. Thanks for joining us on Gallagher.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
See you around on the station. Pat Lamb is quite the man. The players love him, and he's getting the top results out of his players. We've got more to discuss. We're going to be hearing from Wayne Barnes. We're going to be discussing the interpretation of the new breakdown laws. There have been a lot of penalties, but it's all in a great cause. We will see you after the break. Guys, there was... Welcome back to Gallagher Premiership Tonight with myself and Ben Kay and Austin Healy. Just a few moments ago, we saw Wasps secure a bonus point victory over Northampton Saints. If you've been watching the whole of this programme, you've just enjoyed a chat with Pat Lamb. Guys, let's have a look at now some of the toings and froings amongst the Gallagher Premiership sides. Clearly some big name signings for Bristol, and Pat Lamb has access to those signings earlier than he would have wanted. Clearly Semi Randrandra is one of the big headline signings, Kyle Sinclair as well. Ben, he's had to get I suppose it's a bonus having them so early to be there to finish off this campaign, but it's probably asking a lot to have them firing straight out of the box.
I'm not sure, because everyone's had a big, a big rest. Bigger rest than they've ever had, biggest pre-season they've ever had. They might not have all been together, and some of those guys would have come in late, but I think Bristol are building, and what's been impressive about his recruitment philosophy is he hasn't just gone out, and we know Bristol are a wealthy side, hasn't just gone out and bought the biggest stars. He's gone out and bought people that will fit into his philosophy of how they want to play. He's also, with Randrandra, he was away with the Barbarians and obviously got to know him and whether he'd be the sort of player that would fit in his environment. And I'm just really impressed with Bristol. And they also have this fantastic new training facility, which, when you've got a salary cap, it's the things like that that can really make a difference to get the players to sign for you rather than someone else. So I think Bristol are here at the top of the table for the long term, and will be the side that, bar Exeter, everyone else is chasing for the next couple of years.
Austin, any other team you think's really done well in the transfer market now?
I think all of them, actually, in a lot of ways. I think they've all had the chance to push the reset button, not only on who they're bringing in, but who they're retaining, what their wages look like for the long term, because this is a really important factor. I think probably the signing that would stand out the most would be Ben Spencer. I think his ability he's never been the star 9, has he, at Saracens with Wigglesworth there. He's played his part, it's fair to say that, but now he's got the opportunity to be the absolute main man, and that's something I think that Bath needed. Around the rest of the league, who else would stand out? I think Leicester have made some reasonable signings on limited budget. I think they'll do okay, but for me, Ben Spencer's the best one.
Ben, should we also be looking at the coaching teams that are now in place? Because there can't be too much toing and froing of players, but it seems that quite a few coaching teams have been changed, and changed quite radically.
Well, again, some of that is down to performance, but some of that is also down to the finances, which is a great thing for English rugby. Eddie Jones has got one English coach in his coaching setup moving forward for the next couple of years. We need more English coaches coming through. It's something that Chris Boyd says down here, that he's surprised how little English coaches have had opportunity. We're now seeing, potentially because of some of the finances, that when clubs want to make that change, they're not prepared to go and find the big money signing from overseas. They're prepared to give some of the young English coaches a shot. And we're getting, you look at the Gloucester coaching staff, all young English coaches. They get the win yesterday. The backroom staff here, Steve Borthwick coming in as a head coach, obviously very highly rated anyway, so that wasn't necessarily a financial decision, but just think it's really healthy for English rugby that we're seeing this talent. That why not give them a go? Because sometimes when you do your due diligence, it's all about, well, what's this guy achieved? Well, that means English coaches never get the chance to achieve something to get that job in the first place.
Austin, we saw the schedule now through to the end of this season. There'll be a brief break, and then we're into the 2022 season. No, which one? 2022. Anyway, the next season. And it's congested. And these clubs are not going to see a great deal of their England players. So it is an opportunity now for the young guys, not just to play in the occasional game. They could be playing 10, 15, 20 games for their clubs. That's going to benefit England, I guess.
Yeah, I think for a number of years we'd seen the England under-21s team do really well in international tournaments, and then a lot of them had dropped off and almost disappeared. A few of the great ones carried on through, most of them at Saracens. But I think now actually what we might see is this period, this next 46 weeks, I think it's 46 games in 46 weeks. In my day, we played 460 games in 46 days.
Astonishing.
I know, amazing.
And he never whinged about it.
I never complained once or trained on a Monday. But I think what we will see is it will benefit England enormously, because in 3 years' time or 4 years' time, when we may have lost a few of those guys and they may not have been quite up to the standard, the base is going to really grow, and Eddie Jones and the staff are going to really appreciate it.
We're talking about Gallagher Premiership because this is Gallagher Premiership Tonight, but also clubs are now starting to establish stronger links with more junior clubs, particularly clubs in the Championship and then below them. That has to be a good thing as well, because it's going to allow academy players to get more games, I guess.
Exactly, and games, against senior players, that's the big step up that a lot of academy players have to deal with. Is when you go from being the star at junior level, can you do it against gnarly old players with a bit of experience? So I've always been a big believer that if they could find a way to integrate the championship players so that those loan deals were in place, it benefits both sides massively, and getting those players up to speed is about getting game time. You can be the best academy prospect in the world. If you never get to play, you're not going to become the player you should be.
Austin, it's going to be foot down on the accelerator through to the end of the season. Top four come at the end of the regular season. At the moment, it's Exeter, Bristol, Sale and Wasps. Do you think it'll change?
Yes, I think it will. It'll change, and it'll change again. I think Exeter will stay first all the way through. I can't see somebody knocking them off now. Sale need to find some form, and quickly. There's not a long time to go, and they'd won some tight games before lockdown. So I think they could find a way back. They've got enough talent. The squad's pretty world class in a lot of positions, and then it comes down to that third and fourth spot. And unlike you guys, I still think Bristol could drop out of that top four. I know they've got a huge amount of talent. I know they've got a great setup down there, great backroom staff, and wonderful training facilities, but they've not been there before. They're not experienced to know what that pressure looks like towards the end of the season. Their style of play does suit warmer weather, but we haven't seen it yet. So it's a tough one. Wasps for me are the side, and Bath, that could force potentially even Sale and Bristol out of the top four.
Ben, what about Gloucester? I know it's only one game back, an impressive win though over Worcester Warriors. George Skivington, Alex King now the men in charge. What do we expect from them?
I don't think we'll know for a few weeks. I mean, it's a great victory. To get that bonus point, it's a huge thing. But let's not forget there was a red card fairly early on, which makes it a great deal easier. Having said that, if Danny Cipriani is happy with the coaching setup, he's pulling the strings, he feels like he's controlling the back line, how he wants to play, then they're always a huge threat. They've got a brilliant back row. They've got lots of talent throughout that squad. I think they've made some good recruitment decisions as well, with the players that had to leave because of the end of the contract. So I think Gloucester are moving in the right direction, but as Austin said, everyone's done some good business. It's about what you actually do on the field. You can put the best plans in place, but unless the teams go out and gel together very quickly, you're suddenly going to find yourself behind the eight ball.
Austin, we also have to accept there could be some exceptional circumstances over the next few weeks. There could be an outbreak of COVID within a squad. The players might get a little bit bored, I guess, with these atmospheres. At the moment, it's novel, isn't it, coming back to play? But playing in these great stadiums with no one around, that could start to have an effect on them.
Yeah, nothing's certain, is it? You know, you don't really know where you're going. When COVID wasn't around, you could map out exactly where you were going to peak, how you were going to target certain games, which units or which players you could give a week off, or maybe 2 weeks off. Saracens did it better than anyone, and they delivered trophies in hordes because of it. I think what's going to be really key is how these management teams keep their sides energised on a daily basis, how they keep them going, how they give them time off, actually, because they've had so much time off, they might think, well, you don't deserve any more time off. Well, that won't really work when we get 6 weeks in. So it's going to be about rest and recuperation and inspiration. And those sides that have been there before are really experienced and knowing what the latter part of the year looks like.
Okay, well, it's a very, very different landscape. The teams are negotiating at the moment. We, of course, will see how they manage that. Something else that is new in this Gallagher Premiership for the run into the end of the season are the new interpretations of the breakdown laws. We will be chatting with Wayne Barnes after the break to find out exactly what is going on. Stay with us. Yeah, cool. Welcome back to Gallagher Premiership Tonight. We've been talking through all the action from round 14. We're going to be chatting with Wayne Barnes in a moment, but a reminder, we'll have all the action from round 15 when it starts next Friday. We'll be in Exeter Sale. That is on Friday at 5:30. And then Gloucester against Bristol. That's another Friday night game, 7:45. Wasps, Worcester, then Saracens against Harlequins, and Wasps against there is Wasps Worcester on the Friday. Saracens take on Harlequins on Saturday, 12:30. That's on BT Sport Extra 2 HD. London Irish take on Northampton. Irish, of course, playing at the Stoop, their new stadium in Brentford, not quite ready yet. That is at Saturday at 1:30. And then Leicester take on Bath Saturday at 4:15. All the games live here on BT Sport. Well, one of the big talking points as Premiership Rugby has resumed is the interpretation of the breakdown laws. We've seen it in the Southern Hemisphere. We're now seeing the impact of that in the Northern Hemisphere. So we bid a very fond hello to Wayne Barnes, who can talk us through exactly what's happening. Barnes, you're in quarantine. Are you sure you're not still in Mallorca?
Well, I've just put myself in a little cupboard in my spare room just to make sure that, any suggestions that I'm still over sunning myself with the sangria are dispelled. I'm very much home, very much looking forward to joining you lot in a week's time and getting back on the pitch as well. It's been as frustrating for the referees as it is being for the players. We wanted to get out there too, and hopefully I'll be back out in a week or so.
Great stuff. Well, Barnesy, you're going to talk us through what these new law interpretations are at the breakdown. Let's start with the tackler. What is the tackler's role, and what do we need to keep an eye out for? What are the referees looking for?
Look, Dave, I think what's really important to mention as well, at the top of the show, your Saints and Wasps coverage. A question to Lewis Ludlam was, what are the referees after a breakdown? Now, let's be really clear about this. This isn't what the referees have come and said to the players. This is the top coaches, the top players in the world saying, as part of a working group, this is how we can make the game safer, this is how we can make the game fairer, and this is how we can make it more understandable. So they've come out and said, can we help here? So we started off with a tackler. Always the same about the tackler. Let's get quick ball, let's get attacking play. So when you get someone like Marlon Yard here on the wrong side, we've got to make sure he rolls away. And then here we had Ollie Devoto down in the Exeter-Leicester game, first penalty of the game. Tom Foley, the referee, saying, look, let's clear that collateral all around the floor and let's have some attacking rugby. And we saw a lot of that today with Carl Dicton. I know he disagreed with a couple of them, but it really added to that game and that forward momentum.
What about the ball carrier, the tackle player? What are you looking for him to do?
So, look, back to what Ben said in that fantastic demo that he did earlier today. This is about having, a fairer competition. So, if we're encouraging the tackler to get away, we've got to make sure that the tackle player then gets rid of the ball straight away. And here, Damara Hammerson gets tackled, and then he jumped forward on his knees. And we saw that at Quins in the first half, at the end of the first half, when James Chisholm was penalised as well. And Lawrence in commentary said, You're stopping the defence, affecting that turnover, and that's what happened there today, and that's why Carl Dixon penalised it, why Luke Pearce penalised it. Was all. We've got to have that fair competition, Dave.
The Jackler, he's become sort of the folk hero in teams now. The player who can latch onto that ball and he's like a limpet. You cannot get rid of him. What makes life easier for the Jackler now? What makes life more difficult?
Let's just remind ourselves who the Jackler is. That first defender there trying to steal the ball, and we saw two fantastic players at it today, did we? Thomas Young, your man of the match, and also Jack Willis. And then throughout the Premiership this weekend, we've seen Sam Lewis, Worcester, and Tom Curry at Sale. And here's some good examples. Tom Curry, first penalty of the game, he gets over the ball. Quins don't do well enough to clear him out. And here we had Harry Wells, Exeter versus Leicester. Alec Hepburn, the number one from Exeter, misses the clean out. And so all of a sudden, you're getting players competing for the ball. But what we're saying, and we saw there with Dan Cole, the number 3 from Leicester, is you've got to be in a strong body position. That example that Ben used before the match, legs underneath your hips and really trying to pull at the ball. Dan Cole there got too long. So reward that Jackler if he's being positive.
Buzzy, just before we move on to the next bit, the point that Ben made as well, that it aids in player safety. Not just keeping the game flowing, but player safety. How important was that at these meetings at the Paris Symposium where you discussed all these breakdown regulations?
Number one on our list, Bafe. This was all about improving player safety. And if you remember Ben's example demo at the start of the programme, what we were seeing is players were bent over and their neck were exposed and they were just bracing until players arrived to clear them out. What we're saying is we want them lifted, we want them higher, and we want players who arrive cleaning them out safely, driving them backwards. And so the two things that we're looking for, first of all, is to make sure those attacking players don't come in from the side. If they come in from the side, we'll see contacts to the legs and the knees, and we've seen some big injuries about that. And if we have a look at some of those clips of that, we had Quins versus Sale on the weekend, and you see that a 9 from Quins over the ball, and Ben Curry took a shortcut. We want to make sure, again, that players arrive on their feet and not hitting downwards. And there we had Oosthuizen just hitting off his feet. Again, DeLuga just hitting off his feet. We want to encourage players to drive those jacklers backwards so they're in a safer, more protected position. So that's what we're looking for, to protect those players and make it a little bit more safe.
Wayne, we saw a lot of penalties in the first weekend, and I understand you want players not to arrive on their feet at the rug, but we saw a lot of players where players were diving in and losing their feet, losing their balance, and being done for sealing off, even though there was nobody there competing. Are we going to see a little bit more leniency on that, where somebody gets there, he goes to go past the ball as you want him to on his feet, but loses his balance? There's a big difference between diving down on the ball and just losing control of your weight. Are we going to see a little bit more leniency with that?
Yeah, I think that's a really nice example as well. So Dan Cole, that example we saw, he's just trying it on. He's getting too long. What we want players being moved away from the tackle, and if they're encouraging them, driving them away, that's perfect. But what we don't want to see is them hitting down onto a player who's exposed, or we don't want to see that stopping that competition. Austin, and we saw a couple of those examples in the Sale Quins. We want that ball in play. We want to encourage continuity.
Continuity comes from turnovers. What are you looking for? What are you going to allow with the turnover situation?
And I thought it was great that you showed the Northampton offloading game and the unstructured play. So if we look at a couple of the clips we've already seen in the Premiership this weekend, we're starting to see turnovers, and we're starting to see that really entertaining rugby where all of a sudden, as I think it was Ben said in commentary, if we get two sets of hands, we've got this great attacking opportunity. So players are targeting the ball, and we're getting that unstructured, broken play, which is so compelling to watch. And then also what we've seen, and we've seen a bit of this weekend, and we've started to see it from Northampton, but the offloading game is back. And again, we're seeing that the ball is going off the tackle player on the floor, just little pop passes, and then we get, again, that continuity rather than players dying with the ball. And we got two lovely examples of this. First of all, we had it in Exeter versus Leicester. Players not dying with the ball. They're offloading the ball to keep that excitement. And look at this wonderful offload here. Great offload. Rather than dying with the ball, waiting for the contest, we're getting continuity. And as you said in the build up to the Saints match, Faith, that's what Northampton have been doing, but we should see more teams doing this, and that's what we saw across Super Rugby New Zealand, and it was so entertaining to watch.
Barnsley, I think you and your colleagues have to be commended, because there's not many sports where the referees come on and explain things. When you meet up next, is there anything that's happened this weekend where you think we haven't quite got it right, we need to tweak this or we need to tweak that? How will that process work?
I thought it was interesting when Ali said in commentary that there have been 27 penalties average this week so far. I think I've just been told that there are only 20 penalties. So what we're seeing are players are adapting. So we're seeing coaches adapting. So they're buying into what we've been asked to do. So that's fantastic for the game. So we should see that penalty count come down slightly. I think we still have to look around that pick and go area then. So when teams do go around the corner, we've got to make sure that equal competition is still happening there. But we're not going to get everyone right. And we'll go back to the directors of rugby Monday, Tuesday and say, look, here are the clips that we got right, here are the clips we got wrong, but we're all still pushing ahead with what we're trying to do here.
Barnsley, thanks so much indeed. Thanks to you and your colleagues as well. You've got to hurry off. I'm sure they're singing by the pool, and maybe a big jug of sangria is waiting us. So we'll let you go down to the cabana for that. Thank you very much indeed. We look forward to seeing you back as soon as possible. Ben Austin, thank you very much indeed. Remember, you've got highlights from round 40.